guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my November reading wrap up. And yeah, so far I've been reading 2 series. And that's it. At least in this first clip, that's what you're going to be seeing. So yeah, so far it's been pretty good reading month. We're only halfway through the month, but yeah, I've been reading a lot because of, if you watched my October reading wrap up, I explained in the end clip why I've been so late with all my videos in November and stuff because of a situation I was having that I explained in that video. So if you want to know what's been going on, you would have to watch the end clip of that video to see. But yeah, during that time, in order to quell the anxiety I was feeling at the time, I read a lot. So yeah, I got quite a few books done. Surprisingly, and yeah, we're just gonna get right into those. As always, my Goodreads reviews with further content and thoughts on these books will be linked down in the description. As I always do with series, I'm not going to go into great depth about the books after like book 1 in the series. So if you want more details on each of those like continuing series books, definitely check out those reviews because I'm writing those with the opinion that people are reading those books or they're next with those books, as opposed to this video where I'm just sharing them all at once. So yeah, and also I'm going to be adding a new thing. I may or may not have added it to my October reading wrap up as well. You will have had to watch that video, which I will link in the description as well, to know for sure if I did that, because as of recording, I don't know if I'm going to do that yet or not. But anyways, at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to put a print thing of if these books are indie print or not. If they don't have, if no words shows up on the bottom, they're traditionally published. But if they are indie print or a small independent publishing house, I will put that at the bottom here, because I have been getting questions on a lot of my other videos on like what indie books are and how to identify them and stuff. So I thought it'd be helpful for the books that I am reading that are indie print, I will just put it at the bottom here so you guys can see, and then that way I don't also have to remember to say if these are indie or not, because sometimes I don't. Like I've tried that before in other videos and sometimes I just don't end up saying because I forget because of that I was going to say that. So anyways, I'm just going to put it here on the bottom so editing Sarah can put it in because she'll remember. Current recording Sarah doesn't remember things like that, but editing Sarah will. So I'll put that at the bottom, somewhere down here on the bottom of the screen, for if you want to know if these are indie print or not. Obviously, I'm not going to bother doing that with the traditionally published ones. A lot of them tend to be more like everybody's kind of reading them sort of thing, so it's like you kind of assume they're traditional, as opposed to the indie ones, which are, aside from very few popular series, are pretty more obscure. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna get into the first series I started this month, and that is the Elven Alliance series by Grayce. So I reread Fierce Heart, which is the very first book. This is a fantasy romance story, so kind of like a romantasy, I guess it would be. That's what it would be called. Fantasy romantasy didn't exist when this book first came out, but anyways, I reread this book as an ebook. Here's the ebook cover. I have the old cover in paperback of this book. I don't have the rest of the series, so I will be getting those with the new, much prettier covers in my opinion. But here's the one for Fierce Heart. Yeah, in this one we follow Essie. She is a human princess, and in order to keep peace between her human kingdom and the elf kingdom next door, she agrees to a marriage alliance to the elves' foremost warrior prince, Farendel. And yeah, it's basically their story of them. They get married, and it's them kind of navigating this new life together. This Fierce Heart is told entirely from Essie's perspective, so we kind of see her acclimating to the elven culture, trying to fit in with her new elven family, and also getting to know Farendel, who is not what she thought he would be. And yeah, I talked about this book probably a million times on my channel. I love this book, so yeah, revisiting this book again and reading it cover to cover, not just reading the parts I really enjoy, which is what I often have been doing with this book ever since I read it the first time. But yeah, I really enjoyed just rereading this book cover to cover again. Such a great book. I love Essie and Farendel. They are the cutest. Essie is not your typical princess. She's actually really extroverted, really bubbly, and Farendale's like really shy and like anxious and stuff, which I'll get to with the next book, of how sometimes that didn't really help me with my own anxiety, but I really understand him because I am also a very shy, introverted person at times. Most of the time, actually. Really enjoyed rereading this book. I gave it 5 stars again. I also used it for the C.S. Lewis Readathon, which is being hosted by Morgan from Morgan's Endless Bookshelf. I used this book for the prompt Till We Have Faces for a female main character, and I used Essie for this one. But yeah, really enjoyed this book. Okay, then the next book in that series that I read was Elf Prince, which is technically, okay, in the series it's book 7, and I would recommend reading it as book 7. It is technically, though, just Fierce Heart, but from Farendale's perspective, because in Fierce Heart we only have Essie's perspective. In this book, this is like all the events, or at least most of the major events, and then some extra scenes from Farendale's perspective, and he is like a small, anxious little bean of an elf, and I just adore him. I relate to him so much, which sometimes when I was having my anxiety moments when I was reading this book, sometimes reading his perspective wasn't that helpful, because it's kind of like, yeah, I feel you, dude. But also sometimes it was, because it was like, relatable. This is totally relatable. But yeah, I do feel like I gave this book 5 stars as well. But I read it before book 2 because I figured, oh, it's just Fierce Heart from Farendale's perspective. I'm not really gonna get any, like, spoilers or anything, which there are no spoilers. There is a hint at one spoiler, for later books, but I already knew some things, because, see, the series has been around for a while, so I knew some kind of spoilery stuff for later books, so when that popped up in Fierce Heart, it's not really a spoiler, in Elf Prince, excuse me, not Fierce Heart. So when that popped up, it's like, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I think that has to do with blah blah blah, what happens in book 2, but it wasn't really a spoiler. If you're just reading it, you might get some inklings, but I would recommend reading it as book 7, the way it is in the series, mainly because I read it right after I read Fierce Heart, so I feel like I glossed over a few parts which were exact copies of Fierce Heart. They were just from Farendale's perspective, and I feel kind of bad about that, because I still really loved the book. I loved all the extra scenes that we got, and stuff, and I still really enjoyed it. I just don't think reading it back to back with Fierce Heart is a good idea, considering it's the same exact story. So if you're kind of like, want something new, or your brain wants something new to look at, that may be a mistake reading it that way, because then your brain might feel it has to gloss over certain parts when you shouldn't, because not that I did gloss over anything, I just felt a little unfocused sometimes with those parts, which could have been due to my anxiety, could have also been due to it's the same exact story and I read them too close together. So I would recommend reading Elf Prince where it is in the series, which is book 7. Even though if you do read it right after Fierce Heart, you're not going to get any spoilers or anything like that for the next books. So I also use Elf Prince for the C.S. Lewis Readathon. I used it for the tag of the prompt Narnia, which is either a fantasy or middle grade. I used it since Elf Prince is a fantasy. I used it for the fantasy prompt. After Elf Prince, I then jumped into book 2, which is Warbound. This one, the main plot of this one is after events of book 1, Essie and Farendale have to go to Essie's human kingdom, Escarland, to kind of do things that align with their alliance with the elves. I can't really say anything because that's spoilers, but they got like traitors on the human and the elf side, and they kind of have to ferret them out, while also Essie is introducing Farendale to her family. I really enjoyed this. At first, when I first started reading it and they arrived like in Escarland and stuff like that, I felt like everything was very tight, almost like claustrophobic, and I was wondering, like, why do I feel this way? And then I realized it's the way the author has written it to make Essie and Farendale, because this is if you haven't read Elf Prince, this is the first book in the series where we get parts of Farendale's perspective. So, and then feeling like they were trapped in like the stone castle and stuff like that, it felt very tight, and I was tight as in like a tight space, not tight as in written tightly, if that makes any sense. And I was wondering why I was feeling that way, and then I realized the author wrote it that way so that you would feel like, how Essie and Ferrando are feeling, because then once you got to around, like, I think it was around, like, the halfway mark when things start turning for better, like, Essie's family and stuff like that, things that were going on there, it felt like it opened up more, and yeah, I just really enjoyed that because it showed the author's really good writing, so that she was able to have you feel what the characters were going through at the time, and then when things started to open up more and get better, the way the book opened up more, and then it felt more freeing and stuff. So I thought that was really good on the author's part. I will say, this book, make sure you do have book 3. It does kind of, it wraps up, but the fate of a particular character is left kind of on a cliffhanger note, and let's just say I wanted to punch somebody in the face by the end of this book, because the, you know, traitors and stuff like that, and yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on where I was just like, are you kidding me? Yeah, where's the next book? So I literally started the next book and read the majority of it in the same day, but I gave Warbound 5 stars, and then I jumped into book 3, which is Deathwind, and in this one, obviously, due to events that happened in the second book, the elves and the humans are now going to war with the Troll Kingdom, which has been attacking the Elven Kingdom this whole time, and is the whole reason that back in Fierce Heart, the elves made an alliance with the humans. But in this book, they are now uniting in their alliance to fight the trolls because of events that happened in the end of the second book, and this one is much darker than the other books because we're dealing with war. A character is tortured. None of the torture is detailed or described. It's mostly emotional stuff and, like, some physical things of what is being done to this poor character, of, like, more just, it's not, the torture is never really described. We're never around when the torture is there. There's, like, it might start and then the chapter will, like, end and go to the next part, but you can still feel the emotional and physical impact and toll it's having on this character. We also get a new perspective in this story, which I appreciate because it's kind of from a villain's perspective. And I appreciated seeing that because at first I did not like this character. Even in their head, I was like, just shut up and go throw yourself out a window. I'm sorry for what, yeah, you just did this. But by the end of the book, I felt very much like the author is working on a redemption story, and I appreciate that because the author doesn't excuse this character for what they did. She points it out as a very real thing that what they did was totally messed up and totally wrong, but there is enough remorse and regret in this character that you can easily see how they will be redeemed in the next book. So I really appreciate and really like how she wrote that. Yeah, and like the trauma and stuff that the one character is going through, and just different things that come to light. It is much darker than the other books in that regard. There's not as many like cute fluffy moments, obviously because of circumstances and stuff, but yeah, I still really enjoyed this one. I did originally put this as a 5-star. I decided to dock it to a 4.5 star, mainly because yeah, I just didn't love it as much as the first two, but I didn't dislike it because I really do like it. I really like the Tara's writing style, and just everything about the story. I really enjoy it. So knocking it down to a 4.5 star is not a bad thing. I just don't feel I can give it a 5-star fully because it just didn't feel like a fully 5-star book to me. So I decided to give it the 4.5 stars because it feels very much more like that for me. I think because of more of the darker tone, because I've read plenty of dark books that I really enjoy, and I still really enjoy this one. But yeah, that's just kind of my headspace with the rating. So I decided to drop it to a 4.5 star rather than a 5. But yeah, I'm still really enjoying the series because I've continued with the 4th book as of this recording, and really am enjoying that one. That one I feel is going to be definitely a 5-star. But yeah, I am really enjoying this series. I'm really happy that my mood switched to want to continue this one, and yeah, really enjoyed this one, and can't wait to see where it goes next. Okay, sorry for the camera angle change. My foot fell asleep, so I have to sit differently. Anyways, and then the last 2 books I have to talk about, I can't say much about, because of course not, because they're continuations of a series. That is My Hero Academia Volume 13 and Volume 14. So, just continuing with this manga series, and I'm still really enjoying it. Gave both these volumes 4 stars, which has been the standard for the whole series so far. Yeah. Did I give one volume 3 stars? If I did, I don't remember which one it was. But anyways, I gave these 2 4 stars, and yeah, we're just continuing on with the school stuff, things, and like working against the villains and stuff like that. Things have taken a slightly, I would say a more, not really darker, but kind of darker in the 14th volume, at least by the end of it. I'm currently reading the 15th volume, and that one definitely feels a little bit more like, okay, this is like really, really serious stuff we're going through. But yeah, still really enjoyed this one. This one, volume 13, definitely felt like a bridge between the one arc and another, because some parts were a little slow. I don't think I was also fully in the mood when I read this, so I felt a little like meh to me, but I still gave it 4 stars because I really like these characters. I also used this volume in particular for the C.S. Lewis readathon for the prompt The Great Divorce, which is stubborn characters, because these two, Deku and Bakugo, I think that's how you say his name, they are the most stubborn characters I have ever met. All these characters could technically be labeled as stubborn, but these two, they take the cake. So that's why I decided to use that prompt. And yeah, with the way things are going in volume 14, this guy, he's a new villain, and he's kind of terrifying. He's like, not like an overlord, actually his name is Overhaul, so, you know, pretty close to Overload, but Overlord, I mean, not Overload, nobody's overloading, whatever, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but, yeah, this guy might be a problem, yeah, and there's just something about him. He's also part of he's the lead, I'm not quite fully sure, of a Yakuza gang, which the Yakuza is the, like, apparently the Japanese version of the mob. So, yeah, very interested to see where this goes with him, because I don't think it's going to be very easy when they decide to face off with this guy. So, yeah. But yeah, still really, really enjoying this series and looking forward to continuing. So the problem with mainly reading 2 series throughout the whole month is that I have less clips to put in this video, which is good for editing me. But also, I don't have much to say about these books. So, this should be fairly short because they're all continuations of series I've been reading, except for like 2. So, actually, no, those are continuations too. Anyways, so I'm not going to have a lot to say about any of these books. So we're just going to jump right into the rest of the books I read this month. And the first 2 being, the first 2 being volumes 15 and 16 of My Hero Academia. I'm still continuing this series. I'm currently paused, though, because somebody has, like, the next few volumes I need checked out from my library, and they don't seem to want to return them. So, I'm kind of stalled out on continuing the series, which is kind of annoying, because it stopped at a really exciting point, and, you know, like an oh crap moment for everybody. So, I really want to continue this. I've been thoroughly enjoying this series, still am. Volume 16 specifically is, like, just action-packed. Like, totally, like, the very first page to the very last page, we're just constantly fighting these supervillains, trying to rescue this little girl, and yeah, it's just crazy intense. One thing I have noticed about reading manga and really enjoying it is, like, the longer series specifically, they have time to focus on, like, the side characters and stuff like that and fleshing them out, and I really enjoy that, how particular series do that. For example, this one does that really, really well. We did that with 2 characters this one. One of them was Kirishima, who's part of Deku's class, and I really liked seeing more of him and more of another newer character. Yeah, it definitely just gets more into their heads and sees them as more of a fleshed out person overall, as opposed to just side character. I just really like how, since manga is such a long format, it can do that, as opposed to, say, novels, which not necessarily you flesh out all your side characters that well. But yeah, another series that does this really well is Yona the Dawn. That's another one where it takes time to flesh out side characters and stuff. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this series. I gave both these volumes 4 stars. I'm super enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to that person returning the volumes so I can read them. Thank you. That would be nice. Okay, then I read 3 more books in the Elven Alliance series. I read book 4, Troll Queen, book 5, Pretense, and book 6, Shield Band. Really enjoyed all of these. Obviously, I can't say much about them because they're like really into the series, so I can't really say much. I gave Troll Queen and Pretense both 5 stars. Really enjoyed both of them. Yeah, they're just amazing. We get different perspectives in both of these books along with Essie and Farindel's. I just really enjoyed seeing it from all these different characters. Pretense also has this really cool spy element, and like they're trying to flesh out an assassin and stuff like that, so a lot of action there, and I just really enjoyed the whole intrigue part of it and like the thought processes of the main spying character who does it. I don't want to say who it is because that might be considered a spoiler. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that part. I gave Shield Band 4.5 stars. Mainly because, well, number one, Essie and Farindel's perspectives are not in this book at all, and I kind of miss seeing their perspectives. They are my favorite characters, so I really miss seeing their thoughts on things, but it kind of wouldn't have worked for the story anyways. And secondly, the main female character in this one, a troll named Vriska, I had a really hard time connecting with her or even liking her for a lot of it. She's one of those like strong female types, but Tara writes her really well where she's not annoying. I just generally don't click with those types of characters very well unless they're written in a particular way. Which was kind of the case with Vriska, but I did grow to like her by the end. I never disliked her. It's a very weird, weird combination of emotions with this book because I didn't dislike her, but I didn't connect with her, and she was so stubborn and hard-headed most of the time. Julian is a dear. He carried the whole, like, relationship they were trying to do. He carried it for, like, the majority of the book, I kid you not. She didn't really do much to help, and it was just kind of frustrating sometimes. I wanted to strangle her with how stubborn she was being, but she's a troll, so she's gonna be stubborn anyways. But yeah, so I just kind of had some mixed opinions on her, but I did overall still really enjoy the story, especially towards, like, probably a little over the halfway point towards the end when things started picking up. The plot also on this one is the most basic out of the entire series, but I think that worked very well for the backdrop for the relationship, so I didn't mind it as much. It's just not as detailed and complex as, say, the previous 5 books. So not to say that I disliked it, because I did not. I still really enjoyed it. I would just call it my least favorite in the series so far. The last 2 books I read for November were also continuations of a series, and that is Reborn and Refined, books 3 and 4 in the Supervillain Rehabilitation Project series by H.L. Burke. These are clean superhero books, and yeah, I don't know how much I can say. I've been slowly reading this series, along with all of her other superhero books, which I'm almost caught up to, by the way. I'm almost caught up to all of them, which is kind of insane because I've been reading all of these series for a very long time. But anyways, I would say so far, I have one more book in this particular series before I can say for sure. But I would say this series is definitely my least favorite of her superhero books. This was her first one that she wrote, but I don't think, because it's not really the writing style that I have a problem with. It's not really any one thing I have a problem with. It's just I haven't enjoyed these as much as some of her other ones in this universe. But anyways, Reborn, I can't really say a ton about it. It does play with the resurrection trope, hence Reborn. And I kind of leave it at that. I gave this one 3 stars, mainly because Prism, one of the main characters, she was annoying the heck out of me. And I can't fully grasp why, because a lot of the way she was doing things, it's like, it's justified why she's doing it, and it makes sense, but at the same time, she was just annoying me so much throughout this book. I don't know what it was exactly, maybe it was just my mood at the time, but yeah, I gave it 3 stars for that. I still enjoyed the way the author worked with the resurrection trope in this. This book is definitely the most sci-fi out of all of her superhero books, which is why I used it for the Space Trilogy prompt in the C.S. Lewis Readathon for sci-fi, because it's the most sci-fi-y, because superhero is basically just a subgenre of sci-fi. It's kind of moved into its own thing now, but that's how it started. So yeah, very mixed opinions on this, but I still enjoyed it. To a certain degree. But yeah, I enjoyed certain elements. And I understood what Prism was doing. But at the same time, I just wanted to, like, shake her. I don't know. It was a really, really weird time reading this book. I also used this for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge for the prompt for November on the Doyle side, which is the one I was doing. It was a book that intimidates me, so I picked this one, mainly because this is a book I have started, I kid you not, I think like 3 or 4 different times, and I only ever got to like the first, probably like maybe 3-6 pages, and I kept putting it down because it was always the wrong time for me to read it, so I was a little intimidated to start it again this time and be like, am I actually gonna read it? But I did this time, so yeah. But yeah, just very mixed opinions on this one. Then I read Refined, which is book 4. I gave this one 4 stars. Really enjoyed this one. Yeah, there is some more sensual content between Fade and Prism, who are married. So there is some of that. It's kind of called what one reviewer I read on Goodreads calls it. They're kind of like honeymoon phase. They kind of act that way a lot. So a lot of like sensual comments and stuff like that I would recommend. If you want further details on that, please check out my review, which is linked in the description. I have all of it detailed out. The author was very sweet. She actually posted a comment on my, I think it was a vlog I did, where I was talking about Redeemed, the second book of the series, which had some more of that content in it too, and I was talking about it. And she was very sweet. She wrote a comment on that video telling me that there was a few other like vague hints of things in this book, so I really appreciate that she reached out and she mentioned that. So yeah, so I knew that going in that this had some slightly more sensual content and stuff, but I would call this definitely still less than Redeemed. This one didn't make me half as uncomfortable as that one did, so yeah, I would just recommend, if you have a problem with certain things like that, just check out the content in that review that I have on Goodreads to determine if this would be a good fit for you. But I really enjoyed the adventure part. We focus a lot on Fade in this one and some revelations he has about a certain supervillain. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this one, more the adventure side. We're more in Fade's perspective in this one, so maybe that's why I didn't get as frustrated with Prism in this one as I did in the third book, which, not to say I don't like Prism, because I do. I really like her as a character. And I think she was still very sensible, and I liked her in this book too. So I don't know what happened in Reborn. Maybe it was just my mood at the time. Maybe it was just the choices she was making I didn't agree with. I have no idea what's going on with that. But I still really enjoyed this one. And yeah, so I'm very glad I'm almost done with this series. I do have to wait until I can get my hands on book 5, which is the last one. But yeah, have been really enjoying her superhero books overall. This is just, out of all of the series that she has so far, this, I would say, is probably my least favorite one. But still enjoyable and still very well written though. And that's it. Those are all the books I read in November. This is probably going to be a slightly shorter video because I pretty much just read continuations of series. I mean, I pretty much almost read the entire Elven Alliance series this month. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, I will be talking about the last 2 or 3 books. I think it's 2. Yes, the last like 2 books in that series in my December wrap up, because as I'm filming this, it is December already when I'm filming this, and I've already finished the series, and I'm very sad about it. But anyways, hopefully I can continue My Hero Academia soon, and the superhero series, I don't know, because it's going to depend on when I can get a hold of that book. I hope you guys had a great reading month in November as well. If you want to share your favorite or even your least favorite book down below in the comments, I'd love to hear all about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!